Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me again. Welcome, everyone. I do see some familiar faces, or rather names. Sorry. I do see some familiar names right now, but for those who might be new, again, my name is June. I'm the program manager at the Alzheimer Association, New York City chapter, right in front of 42nd Street, Grand Central. So we're very close if you're in Manhattan. Um, yes, so today's topic for discussion is going to be healthy living for your brain and body. So this is probably one of my favorite topics just because, this is very applicable to, for both caregivers, for those who might not be caring for anybody with dementia or Alzheimer's. It's really just a lesson for anybody, really. Right. So for today's learning objectives, what we're really going to do today, we're going to, number one, we're going to identify how certain behaviors affect our brains and bodies, right? Number two, we're also going to list strategies for healthy decision making in these following areas, right? We're going to be talking about one, sleep, two, smoking, number three, mental health, physical activity, balanced nutrition, cognitive engagement, and also social engagement, right? These are so many different aspects that we should really think about, especially when we are talking about, again, healthy living for our brains and our bodies. There we go. But before we get into that, right, we're going to do a little science lesson, right? Ooh, science. I love science. And typically the brain, right? So we're really going to talk about the brain right now. So our brain, it's our big, probably our most hardworking organ, right? It's the control center of the body. That's where our little mini, inside my brain, we have little mini Junes, right? Doing all these different work, sending out different signals, right? For different behaviors, emotions and whatnot, right? So in the brain, we got over 100 billion nerve cells, or otherwise called neurons, that create those branching networks, right? And through those branching networks within our brain, that's where we see our signals, right? The signals that are traveling through our brain, that's going to, again, form those memories, thoughts, and feelings, right? And as we know with Alzheimer's disease, right, Alzheimer's disease actually destroys those brain cells, right? And that's why we start seeing those different symptoms that associate with Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia, right? We get that forgetfulness, we get a lot of the mood changes, right? They start wandering, they start doing many of these new behaviors that we never seen before, or actually the loss of behaviors too, right? Nope. And here we go. Yes. And next up in our science lesson, right? So the heart-brain connection, right? So our hearts and our brains, they are interrelated, they are connected, right? And we're going to be hearing this a lot throughout today's presentation, right? So what you do to protect your hearts can also help your brain continue to operate at its best, right? So what we do to help protect our brain can help protect our heart. Whatever we do to protect our hearts can help to protect our brain, right? You see that connection. The brain, it needs blood flow. And where do we get the blood flow from? Get it from our hearts, right? So the brain, it's going to depend on oxygen, and it's going to depend on that good, adequate blood flow in order for our brains to work, right? And a quick little, I guess, facts, right, is that we see that the heart, from every heartbeat, the brain receives 20 to 25% of blood, right? So we can see how important it is that we do keep both our hearts and our brains healthy for that interrelationship. Right? So to start off with our, I guess, program today, here's a quick true or false question. You can use the chat box too, or you can unmute your mic as well. True or false? Alzheimer's is a normal part of aging. True or false? You can use the chat box or unmute really quickly.
False.
False. Yes. Any other answers? Anyone else want to take a crack at it?
False.
All righty. All righty. Great. Thank you. Oops. Yes, it is false. Right? Ding, ding, ding. So Alzheimer's is a progressive and fatal brain disease, right? So progressive meaning that it will get worse and worse over time. And we ultimately see that goes from early, middle, late stage, right? Symptoms usually develop slowly and get worse over time. And again, it is not a normal part of aging. Because if it was a normal part of aging, right, we will all get it at one point. But we know that's not true. Great. Thank you so much for participation. Alrighty. So quick definitions, right? Alzheimer's and other dementias are not a normal part of aging, as we heard from before, right? And the main difference between dementia and Alzheimer's, right? They are very similar, but again, they are very different too, right? So dementia, we could think of that as a general, like a big umbrella term that describes those problems with thinking and memory that are severe enough to interfere with a person's daily life, right? And then Alzheimer's disease is the most common cause of dementia, right? So we could think of dementia as, again, right, that word ice cream. And under that word ice cream, we got other flavors under that, right? And Alzheimer's is the most common flavor of dementia, right? Other forms of dementia also include frontotemporal dementia, we have Lewy body dementia, we have mixed dementia, Parkinson's, etc. Right? So right now for Alzheimer's, unfortunately, there is no cure for Alzheimer's, but there are drug and non-drug options that can help with symptoms and may have the ability to slow the disease progression, right? So we do see it with the latest medications of lecanemab and Aduhelm, right? Those actually now have the ability to slow down this progression. And of course, in the big yellow on the bottom, right, we see that some healthy behaviors may actually lower the risk of dementia. Right. Here we go. So next, we're going to talk about the story of your health, right? So your overall health is affected by these three things, right? Genes and family history, environment, and lifestyle, right? So genes and family history, that's something that we cannot change, right? That's embedded in us through our genes, right? And family history, you know, if someone within our family tree has also this, now you are also at a higher risk, right? Environments, you know, we can't really change this too often, right? Because as much as I wish we could, right? We can't just get up and move to a new location every other month, right? It's going to be expensive, especially in New York City, right? So environment is something that we really can't change too often. But the last part, right, lifestyle, that's where we can find, right, that it is a lot easier to change, right? There's so many different factors that we can change and start now, right? And those healthy habits, they may actually be very beneficial for your body and brain. Right? So we really want to think about that. All right. So continuing with the story of your health, right? We do want to ask our healthcare providers what these numbers should be and what your numbers are, rather, and what they should be, right? And those numbers include, right, knowing your blood pressure levels, blood sugar, right, weights and BMI or body mass indicators, right, and cholesterol levels, right? Especially if you do have a history of high blood pressure, or maybe you have diabetes for blood sugar, right? Midlife obesity or cholesterol levels, right? Or high sodium intake, right? We want to think about what these numbers are, what they should be, and keeping that numbers in check every time we do see or meet with our geriatrician, with our physician, etc. So what the research and science tells us, right? So there are many factors that do increase the risk of heart disease and stroke, and that all may also increase the risk of cognitive decline and dementia, right? Again, our hearts and our brains are connected, right? So when we do put ourselves at more risk of heart disease and stroke, that might also increase the risk of cognitive decline and dementia and Alzheimer's. Right, that includes also hypertension, diabetes, and midlife obesity too, right? But on the flip side, right? So if we think about good cholesterol, right? Good cholesterol is good for the heart. And what's good for the heart is good for the brain, right? We're going to keep talking about this, right? What's good for the heart is good for the brain. What's good for the brain is good for your heart, right? You can walk away with today's lesson. You don't have to listen to anything else, but that's going to be the main part that you're going to take away, right? Because I'm going to keep saying it. What's good for the heart is good for the brain. What's good for the brain is good for the heart. Wish I had a mic. All righty. There's our next question, right? True or false? It's never too early or too late to incorporate healthy habits. True or false?
True.
True. Okay, I heard true. Anyone
True.
else? Okay, I heard not true. Absolutely. True. Yes, of course. It's never too early or too late, right? People of all ages, they can benefit from adding more healthy habits and behaviors. And that's a lot of what we're going to talk about today, right? So we're going to cover all these different topics on the screen, right? We're going to talk about getting quality sleep, being smoke free, right? Taking care of your mental health, get moving, eating healthy, challenging yourself, and also staying connected. Number one, getting that good quality sleep, right? Sleep is so essential for our overall health and well-being, right? And we probably hear about this all the time too, right? Just like how our smartphones, right? We need to charge our smartphones overnight so that we can have it 100% next day, right? Our bodies are the same way. All right, so what the science tells us about sleep. Sleep impacts overall health, right? It also affects our ability to maintain healthy blood pressure and blood sugars. And of course, having inadequate sleep, that could also cause problems with memory and thinking, right? So when we think about not getting enough sleep, right, sometimes we have a rough night. The next day, we wake up feeling very groggy and we start missing things in our daily routines, right? And then we start to forget more things, et cetera, right? Over time, if we keep doing that, right, we do see some problems with memory and thinking, right? And we don't want that. So when we think about getting quality sleep, right, we want to think about these questions to ourselves, right? Number one, what kind of environment helps me sleep? Number two, what changes might help me create a more peaceful sleep setting? And number three, how can I minimize disruptions? So some tips for quality sleep, right? Number one, some people, right, want to make sure that we do, sorry, let me start over. Number one, right, we want to control the room temperature or amount of light for what you prefer, right? So for me, for example, right, I need complete darkness when I go to sleep. And I do like my room a little cooler just because I do get a lot more hot, right? I do have a lot of body heat, unfortunately. Other people, they might need a nightlight, right? Sometimes other people, they might prefer a little bit more warmer, right? It's really about how you yourself and knowing yourself and what creates the best sleep setting for you. Number two, turn off screens before bedtime to help wind down before sleep, right? The magical number is 30 minutes, right? So 30 minutes before we are about to go to sleep. Maybe put away our iPads, our iPhones, our laptops, and TVs. Oh, well, we turn off our TVs. We can't put it away, right? We do want to turn those off, right? Because with the blue light that gets emitted from all of our devices, that affects our ability to go into our deep sleep faster, right? So again, turning it off 30 minutes, maybe it's a good idea to start reading a book instead, 30 minutes before we go to sleep, right? Um, yeah. Talk to your doctor if you experience frequent sleep problems, right? So if you do start seeing that, you know, you're sleeping for 7 to 8 hours, but you're still not feeling refreshed after those 7 to 8 hours, that might be caused because of sleep apnea, right? So we definitely want to talk with our doctors if we do face sleep apnea, maybe even insomnia too, right? Definitely want to make sure that we get that recharge. Right. And number two, being smoke free, right? Smoking has a direct impact on the health of your brain. So what the science tells us about smoking, so studies have found that smoking increases the risk of cognitive decline and may increase the risk of dementia, right? Smoking, I think it's very self-explanatory now, right? We know how bad smoking is for our health, right? And even if you are a smoker right now, right? So you might be thinking, oh, it's already too late. I've been smoking since I was young, right? Um, it's too late for me, right? No, it is not too late. It is never too late. So science also tells us that quitting smoking might actually reduce your risk of, developing cognitive decline back down to the level of non-smokers, right? So with this research, we could see that, it's never too late. It's never too late. So being smoke-free, right? Some questions we might ask ourselves is number one, what could help me stop smoking or stay smoke-free? And number two, what resources are available online or in my community? So here are some tips, right? Number one, finding support through quit lines, right? Number two, talking with your doctor or another healthcare professional. And number three, looking for a smoking cessation program or even a strategy that works for you. Right, there's so many different resources out there to help you stop smoking. Right, so definitely take a look. Right, you maybe even talking with your doctor. Right, and really looking at what are the resources in my community that can help me. All right, number three, taking care of your mental health. Right, mental health has been such a big, real issue. Right, it's very real. So it's really important that we do prioritize yourself, right? Make time for self-care, right? Because no one's going to do self-care for you. You got to do yourself, right? So when we talk about taking care of your mental health, number one, pay attention to your stress levels and any symptoms of anxiety, depression, or other concerns, right? These do affect the health of your brain, right? And when we do find that there are many stress levels, right? You are seeing these symptoms. Maybe you do want to talk with maybe a therapist or a doctor about this, right? Great. And number two, many healthy habits contribute to good mental health. All right. So some things that we want to think about when we're talking about taking care of mental health, right? Number one, what are some things I enjoy doing? Number two, how can I build breaks into my day? Number three, how can I focus on self-care? All right. So here are some tips for self-care. Number one, right? Taking a nap, going for a walk, right? Dancing. Oh, that's me. Listen, I pop out my Just Dance 2023 on my Switch. I make sure I go do dancing like at least a few times a week because I need to relieve that stress, right? Find something that really, interests you, something that's maybe part of your hobby already, right? Something that you really like to do, right? Singing a song, baking a tree, reading a book, watching a funny video, right? We want to do things and take some time in our days to build breaks, right? Especially if we are working 9 to 5, right? We need some breaks. Maybe we need to take a quick walk during our lunch, right? We also want to make sure that go ahead and get your massage, get a pedicure, manicure once a week or every other week, right? You got to take care of yourself because again, no one's going to take care of yourself for you, right? No one's going to do that self-care for you. You got to do it yourself. That's why it's called self-care. All right, next, right? Get moving. So physical activity can improve brain health. All righty. So what the science tells us about physical activity, consistent cardiovascular activity will reduce risk of cognitive decline. Right? Physical activity may directly benefit brain cells and reduce other risk factors. Right? So when we are getting moving, right? When we are dancing, when we're taking the walk, right? Again, right? Our hearts and our brains, they are connected. Right? And when we do that physical activity, we're pumping that blood into our brains, right? So we do see that, right? That physical activity is going to directly benefit those brain cells because of the good, healthy blood that we're pumping, right? And for most people, any increase in movements that can have an impact on overall health. All right. So some questions that we want to ask ourselves when we talk about getting moving, right? Number one, what activities do I want to try? Number two, how can I build more physical activity into my day? Number three, who can I ask to join me? So some tips for getting physically active, right? Number one, find things that might already be a part of your day, right? Taking a walk around your neighborhood, right? Taking the stairs more often, or getting off the bus to stop earlier, right? Listen, when I have a really rough day at work in the office from 9 to 5, I get off the subway station a stop earlier so I can take a little bit more of a walk, right? Even small things like that can add up, right? That's actually the next point, right? Start small. Short amounts of physical activity, they do add up, right? Again, it's never too early or it's never too late, right? Even starting with 5 minutes of activity, right, that can eventually turn to 10 minutes, 20 minutes. Now you're walking for 40 minutes, 50 minutes, an hour, right? Start small, right? They are going to add up. And number three, try something fun for you. Maybe asking friends, family members, or neighbors to join you. Or sometimes going on a walk by yourself might be a little boring, right? Maybe we need some friends or family members or neighbors to come with us on the walk, right? Or if we're going to a gym, right? It's a little lonely. Sometimes we may need another companion, right? That also goes with the social aspect that we're going to talk about later today too, right? The social connections too. Right? So eating healthy, right? Eating an overall healthy diet may also reduce your risk of many diseases. All right. So what the science tells us about this, here we go again. We're going to keep reading about this. You're going to keep hearing about this, right? Number one, what's good for the heart is also good for the brain. What's good for the brain is good for the heart, right? We're not just saying this willy-nilly. It's so true, right? Number two, nutritious food is fuel for the brain, right? It's going to be our gas that we need for our brains to function well, right? Number three, eating a balanced diet that might reduce your risk of heart disease, cancer, Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's disease, stroke, and diabetes, right? So you can see really how, research shows that eating right is really beneficial for your body. Excuse me. Examples of balanced nutrition, right? So you might have heard these two diets, right? The DASH diets, which is dietary approaches to stop hypertension diet, and also the Mediterranean diet, right? So really the key elements of these two diets that are recognized widely, right? They really have those fruits and vegetables, nuts, beans, and whole grains, right? Lean meats, fish, and poultry, healthier fats, and also limited sugar and salt, right? So when we're talking about eating healthy, right, some things we might wonder for ourselves, right? Number one, how can I cook differently to make my meals healthier? Number two, what healthy foods can I swap in? Number three, what new foods am I willing to try? All right. So some tips for eating healthy, right? Number one, maybe using olive oil or another healthy oil instead of butter, right? Butter does have a high cholesterol level and high fat levels too, right? Sometimes you may want to try to use olive oil instead of butter, right? Just because again, butter does have quite high levels of many different things. So, olive oil, sunflower seed oil, avocado oil, right? Those are all extra virgin olive oil, right? These are all very different examples of those healthy oils. I'm using sodium-free spices for flavor instead of salt, right? So that doesn't mean that we completely take away salt. We just want to make sure that we keep it in moderation, right? Because again, high sodium levels could also increase your cholesterol levels too, right? And if you do have pre-existing medical conditions, right? Again, that kind of goes back to making sure that we have these levels in check and knowing what these levels should be with our doctors, right? All right. Number two, focus on what you can add in instead of what to take away, right? This is kind of human psychology too, right? When we think about, oh man, I gotta, take away all these different foods, I gotta eat less of this, right? That sounds a lot worse than thinking about, oh, you know what? I'm just gonna add in more fruits and vegetables, right? I'm gonna make sure I eat more of, whole grains now, right? When we focus on what we can add in versus what's take away, it seems a lot easier on our brains, right? So, it also has the same effect too, right? So, just go ahead, add in more fruits and vegetables, add some more carrots, some more, celery, some more poultry, right? Or lean meats, right? Focus on what you can add in. Number three, build meals around vegetables, beans, and whole grains, and also choose leaner cuts of meat. Right. Next, just a quick note about vitamin supplements. So the World Health Organization, they did conclude in 2019 that vitamins and supplements they should not be recommended to reduce the risk of cognitive decline and dementia. Right. So when we are talking about vitamin supplements, number one, we want to always be careful of any potential false claims. Right. So if someone tells you, oh, this vitamin, it cured me of my Alzheimer's, or all my symptoms are going away, right? That's a very big claim, and most likely it might be a scam too, right? So always we want to be careful of those potential false big claims, right? If it sounds too good to be true, more times than not, it is, right? It might be just want to be careful. All right, focusing on balanced nutrition to promote a healthy brain and body, and talking with a healthcare professional about any concerns of nutritional deficiencies. Right. Again, just because a vitamin supplement works for another person, right? One of our close friends, they might be saying, like this vitamin really helps me. I feel a lot better, right? You should try it. But again, we don't want to just take any vitamin supplements willy-nilly, right? Because again, our medications might be different from their medications that they take, right? Their physical activity levels and also their pre-existing medical conditions, that might be different from what we have too, right? So again, we don't want to take anything willy-nilly because we don't know what the side effects might include, right? So again, that's why we always want to talk with a healthcare professional about those nutritional deficiency concerns. Great. Here's our next question. And it gives me time to drink some water. So true or false? Challenging your brain may help lower your risk of cognitive decline. True or false?
True.
True.
Thank you. Yes, true. Thank you to the people in the chat. Awesome. Yes, true, right? So continuing to challenge our brains, right, and our minds as we age might lower the risk of cognitive decline. We'll talk about that in the next section. Here we go. So challenging yourself, right? So challenging your mind might have short and long-term benefits for your brain. So just a quick definition of what is cognitive engagement, right? So cognitive engagement is that term that means keeping our minds active and challenged, right? So that could also include, right, learning new skills, working on challenging tasks, or engaging on ongoing learning, right? Actually, y'all are doing that today because you're hearing me talk and you're learning about healthy living for your brain and body. So you check that off for today. Great. So what the science tells us about keeping our minds active and challenged, right? It forms new connections among brain cells, right? Going back to those neurons and those signals, right? It creates new signals in the brain. And it's kind of like working out our brains, right? Because cognitive engagement, it encourages blood flow to the brain. So those mentally stimulating activities that might possibly maintain or even improve cognition, right? Engaging in formal education may also keep your brain healthy and can provide protection against developing dementia, right? It could also be, learning a new skill, learning a new hobby, right? those are all kind of examples of also education, or even again, right, listening to different workshops, presentations, etc. So challenging yourself, right? Maybe we ask ourselves, one, what new hobbies or skills do I want to learn? Right. Number two, what activities sound like a fun challenge? Or three, what topics would I like to learn more about? So here are some tips to challenge yourself, right? Maybe taking a class on a new topic or skill at your, community center or wherever it might be, right? PSS, right? Um, Attending these workshops, right? Learning a new topic or skill. That's a way to challenge yourself and your minds, right? Number two, trying new cooking technique or learning a new language, right? Building a piece of furniture or learning how to play a new strategy game like chess, checkers, etc. Right? When we're doing something new, right? When we're learning something new, whether it be again a hobby, skill, or formal education, right? These are all great ways that we are able to challenge our minds and again potentially improve our cognitive status, right? Right. And staying connected, right? So connecting with others socially can have many health benefits. So what the science tells us, right? Staying socially active may support brain health, right? Listen, us humans, we are social creatures. We need to talk. We need to have conversations. We need to interact. We need to do things together in order for us to stay, to stay active, right? Both within our minds, within our brains, within our physical activity, within whatever it might do with others, right? So, really, social engagements, that's why we start seeing with the latest research, right? Social engagement is actually associated with living longer with fewer disabilities, right? When we're in isolation and we're cutting people off and we just don't, we're locked up in our rooms or we just stay in our rooms all the time, right? You know, it will have a detrimental effect on your brain and also overall your health too, right? We got to get out. We got to, talk with others, even if it's like a simple phone call, right? That's a way to stay socially active too, right? And though we see also with the science, right, those who feel well connected, they tend to make healthier choices. Also, the other areas that we talked about today too, right? Great. So when we talk about staying connected, right, how do I like to stay connected to others? How can I get involved in my community? Are there any clubs or groups I would like to join? So some tips for staying connected, right? Number one, volunteering for a cause that's important to you, right? For me, I'm a huge dog lover, right? I have a dog in my apartment, and every other week I do some animal volunteering at the dog shelter in Long Island City in Queens, um, and that really helped me to stay connected with again with dogs, but also with other humans too who have similar interests, right? So it's kind of a way that we can kind of meet new people, again, keep our brains and minds active. Number two, scheduling regular phone calls or video chats to keep in touch, right? Whether that be with our friends or with our family members, right? We do want to keep in touch. Visiting friends and family, participating in events in your community, right? Or even, again, staying connected by, you know, asking questions in our presentations or, going to different social groups, right? Clubs. Um, these are all great ways that we can stay connected with other people. Great. So again, like we said, right, it's never too early, it's never too late. You can live healthy for your brain and body, right? So the big tips, right, that we talked about throughout today was one, getting quality sleep, again, two, being smoke free, right? Taking care of your mental health, get moving. Number five, eat healthy, challenging yourself. And lastly, staying connected, right? These are all things that we should really keep in mind as we live healthy for our brains and our bodies. Right. So, you know, from the Alzheimer Association how we can help, right? So there are many different resources. I think these three key resources are very important to have, especially if we are starting to see some signs within ourselves or within others, or if we are caring for someone with Alzheimer's dementia right now, right? So our 24/7 helpline is 1-800-272-3900. We are a nonprofit, so all these services are free. Our 24/7 helpline, it actually helps you get connected with one of our social workers, our medical clinicians, care consultants, etc. Right? They can help you create an action plan for whatever you might need. They can help answer your questions about Alzheimer's dementia. They can help you to find the nearest resource to you, right? Or just there for emotional support too, right? And of course, there's over 200 plus languages. So if English is not your first language, you can request those translation services with the 24/7 helpline. Again, our 24/7 helpline is 1-800-272-3900. And our website is alz.org, where you can find our latest online resources, including the latest research, different topics of surrounding Alzheimer's dementia, right? Information. You can find, what your local chapter offers to you, right? Again, the website is alz.org. We also have our community resource finder, which is in collaboration with AARP, and that's on communityresourcefinder.org. With the CRF, the community resource finder, that's where you can input a zip code, and you can find the nearest resources to that zip code, right? So you input a zip code, you can find the nearest geriatrician, physician, home health aide, senior center, the nearest Alzheimer's Association, etc. Right? And again, that is communityresourcefinder.org. And great. So thank you for listening to today's program. I will open up for any questions.
I have too many questions about getting quality sleep. I'm the caregiver. So it's difficult for me to get quality sleep taking care of my husband. Other than everybody says go into a different bedroom, and I wind up on the couch sometimes in the living room because I can't get enough time to sleep that's connected together. There are times when it's good, but there are times, most of the time, it's a broken up sleep of 2 or 3 hours at a time. One of the neurologists said I should get a body pillow for him, but he just picks it up and throws it off the bed.
Gotcha. So I guess the question is, what should you do in those situations?
Yeah, what other hints other than, say, going to a different bedroom or a different room? Then he has a CPAP machine, which makes a lot of noise sometimes also.
Got it. So I guess with that, yeah, a lot of noise, the CPAP, yeah, that machine can get very loud for sure. I think, I guess, have you tried earplugs? Have you tried to, are you not able to sleep because he keeps bothering you during the night? Does he constantly wake up as well? Or is it just because of the noise?
Yes. All of the above.
All of the above. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. So I think something that might also be something to consider too is if they're also the ones to be constantly waking up during the nights, right? It might be that they're not getting enough physical activity throughout the day.
That's
right?
true.
Because again, we do want to make sure that during the daytime, right, they are staying active. Otherwise, then they're going to get restless during the nighttime. And we do see that a lot with different, well, at least with the caregivers that I've spoken to, with, some things that they've done, right? Again, if they potentially look into senior centers too, where they are able to get that good connection, social connections, they're able to do activities throughout the day.
I've tried many times. He used to go to his club meetings once a month. Now he has no desire to even get dressed to go out at all.
It might be also sometimes, they might feel like because it's a new environment, right? It might be overstimulation too. So sometimes maybe we ourselves as caregivers might need to go with them once in a
I
while.
do.
Okay, so you do.
Yes.
So maybe
I've
doing physical
tried many
activity
things.
together to throughout the day. I think that could be something that you can do on your own as well, right? Maybe even just making sure that we do take walks throughout the day, right? You know,
Mm.
doing it together. I think that's also something that we want to keep in mind as well too.
How can we urge them to, like, even just to go to take a walk? I can't even get him to put on shoes and socks to go out.
So, you know, also your big valid question too. So sometimes, we try everything. We're like, it's good for your health. We tell them, and they're still hesitant to go out,
Yes.
right? Sometimes, for the sake of their health too, sometimes we gotta, I like to call it this, right? We're gonna use therapeutic fibbing, right? So it's not lying. Well, I
Yes.
guess it is lying, but we're gonna call it therapeutic fibbing, right? Sometimes we gotta say, oh, there's I guess so. Well, I don't know. Depending on your situation, I've heard from other caregivers, right? They've said to their husband, right? We have to leave the house for like good 30 minutes. So let's go ahead and take a walk because there's going to be exterminators coming in to make sure that there's no bugs,
Mm.
or kind of playing around with how we're going to get creative and making sure that we do get them out. There's that kind of tactic too, or maybe if I guess also another thing that I've heard from other caregivers too, they create like a doctor's note saying that the person is required by the doctor to get 30-minute walks. So having that official document also kind of shows them, oh, this is kind of real, right? Again, we kind of have to play around with it. It also depends on who they are as a person, what strikes their interest too, right? So also playing into their interests too, right? Maybe if they had a specific hobby back in the days, right? Maybe bringing that back, et cetera, et cetera.
Thanks. But
I would also like to add, you know, organizations like the Alzheimer's Association and PSS Circle of Care, if you are part of us, we also offer respite services.
Oh, yes.
So, that's something, if you want to go ahead and reach out to me and I can connect you or reach out directly to your care consultant, taking advantage of those things where you can just get someone to come into the house and you go into another room and have uninterrupted sleep for like 6 hours. You just need to sleep.
Oh, wow.
You know, that's something that we offer. That's part of our resources at PSS. So feel free to contact us, or if you don't have a care consultant, you can contact me and we'll figure out a way to put that in for you, because sleep is very, very important as a caregiver. Like it's been mentioned again in this webinar and in others. You can't take care of someone else if you're not taking care of yourself first. And so making sure that you have someone come in. If you don't have a family member, we can certainly help with that, just to provide some respite so that you can take a nap. And that's not silly. That's not a bad thing. It is all part of the caregiving journey.
Thank you.
Thinking power, yes. I think that's a very great resource too. PSS has many different great resources too. So definitely check into that. Great. Any other questions? Let me also make sure I check the chat just in case.
I have another question. Is just trying to a simple way of changing learning something, is trying to use my left hand since I'm right hand dominant. Is that helpful in cognitive learning?
I guess, yeah, it could be because it's a new way that we have to adapt to our left hands, right? I guess, yeah, that could be. I've never heard that, but that's very creative. And I feel like, yes,
I
that should be.
tried that. So because I don't have too much time, so I tried brushing my teeth with my left hand or combing my hair. It's a
Yeah,
little difficult.
it is
I have to
difficult.
guide, sometimes I have to use my right hand to guide my left hand, but it's something different. I said that I could do in like 2 minutes.
I think that's very creative. And actually, I'm going to try doing that too, just because like, we have to think extra hard now because with our right hand, it's almost instantaneous what we do with our
Yes,
right.
yes.
But with our left hand, now we have to have that extra thinking. So you know what? I think yes, that is very. It really helps with our cognition. I would like to believe because again, we have to
Try
think
it.
about thinking.
Not that
Yeah,
easy.
I'm
Not
gonna
that
try it
easy.
right now. Writing with my left hand.
Yeah.